Yeah.
I don't know how they forget, but then when they're interviewing, all of a sudden it's like,
Is that where everyone is?
oh no, they're just being late because it's that last day before the 4-day weekend. You've seen people.
I can see, are you being sarcastic or not?
No, seriously, for job interviews and things like that. Employers are looking for people that have good attendance that they can depend on. So it's very, very important. You guys are doing the right thing. So I'm just saying, good job. You got the one up when you're there at the interview. Today, I'd like to look at connecting our audio CD class to a form. We're just displaying information from our audio CD class on a form. A lot of people look at it as connecting. That's all right. It's not really that big of a deal. In our audio CD class, I posted one for you on Canvas, so don't worry, we'll all start at the same place with that one. But I wanted to kind of think about what we need on our form and how you guys want to lay it out. In our audio CD class, we have the ID for the CD, we have the name. We should call it audio media, not CD, but that's how our class got named, so we'll continue that. The name, the artist, and then we have the number of tracks, the quantity that we have on hand, and I think the cost. So these are the things that we would want to put on a form that we're going to use to maintain our CD inventory in our store. So we want to keep track of what CDs we actually have or what media we have in inventory. So we're going to start out kind of thinking about a wireframe diagram. How do we want this form to look? Whenever we're working with a data entry form like this, we kind of are led to just like two columns, right? If you think about it, usually when you're entering things like that, that's what you're going to see. One side, they're going to have the name or the labels of the data items, and then right beside that, they're going to have text boxes for you to enter that data. And if you just kind of think about that sort of design, that kind of lends itself to all the different languages that we might use and things, and that's why you'll see it that way. So let's say we're going to start out with a form where we have a label for all of those things. I should have just written them here in the first place. I'll learn. And of course, I want my labels to look nice and professional because this is my user interface. So I wouldn't want to use unknown abbreviations. If there are abbreviations in my company that are kind of accepted, then I could use those. But I wouldn't want to use one that I think is a good abbreviation in our cost. So that would be our labels, our prompts for our users. We like to organize those. You can kind of organize them however you prefer. Some people like them to be aligned to the left. Some people like them to be aligned, to the right, depending on your point of view. You might like to have some sort of character, like a colon character or something, delineating the end of that label. It's up to you. People kind of develop their own standard and their own style, and of course that's the kind of thing we want to be consistent with across an application. So then we'll have a text box for each of those. So our wireframe is not really too hard to develop, not too fancy here. And then we want some sort of button to say, okay, I've entered all of these things, save this media. So let's make it be like an OK button. As we get to working with our application, we might decide that as people enter CDs, we want to display them in a list, maybe off to the side of our form. As time goes on, we'll add something over here where we can list all of the different media that we have in inventory. And then people could click on an item here in this list and have it show up in the form for all of the details. So that's kind of what we'll be working towards. But let's start today with creating this part of the form where we're just looking at all of the data fields for our individual things. Now, if I'm going to create this, what would be a good name for the text box that's going to hold that ID field?
ID, TXT, or the other way around?
The other way around. TXT ID. So don't forget that to use your prefixes as you're creating your form. So I don't want to sit up here and create it together because I want you to experiment and try some different things in your design. So I'm going to set the alarm for about 15 minutes, give you some time to create these labels and text boxes. Don't feel rushed. I'm just going to check and see how everybody's doing at that time and see if we need a little bit more time. So experiment, get your form set up the way you like it, and then we'll look at adding the code to make it work. The class file, if I can switch this thing and save it, I'm not sure. It lets me just switch back and forth between things, but I'll save it. See if I can change. Oh, yay, there it is.
Is it the first thing in announcements?
Yes. It's got the audiocd.cs file, and this class file has all those fields, and it's pretty well developed. So if we all start with that one, that'll give us the same stuff. So you don't necessarily need that, because it should have the same things as what we're talking about here. But you can add that into your project as you're getting started. Bless you.
Well, I'm done with the layout. I just meant I'm done with the layout.
It's hard to read.
That is hard to read as mine. Trust me, yours is not bad.
I tell you, when I look at it, I'm like, oh, I don't even know what that says. I would rather type.
That's what you said earlier.
Are you making it pretty? They're all looking great. I'm going to create my project. Back you guys over. I have a form that I want to copy from. I'd kind of already created. So it's in a different project, but I have it open also. I'm going to select everything off of it, maybe.
That's exactly
And
like
then
the one I
copy
just
it.
created.
I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it. Now, notice it pasted a lot of the aspects of my form. I got all my data elements and controls and things. So you can do a lot of copying and pasting. I didn't get the form properties itself. So I could do several different things. I could go look at that Windows system generated code and grab those properties, or I could set them manually. I'll just set them really quick. I know you guys are getting yours done. So that's not too bad, and I'm going to update my font to be 12, and then check all of my controls and make sure they're all a 12-point font, and they are. Now I could do a little renaming on my form. I don't want my title to just say Form 1. So again, in my form properties, I'll fix that. Audio, media, inventory. Let's give ourselves a fancy name. When you get to give yourself a title, you always want to make it sound good. Now I should have the ability to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to select all of my controls and move them over because they're a little too far to that side for me. Put them a little bit more in the middle. Oops, we're done. And then I want to select just my labels because I want to line those up. And I'm going to align them to the right. And then I think with my text boxes, I'll align them to the left. And they should be pretty well lined up. My button looks a little bit crooked. Maybe if I make it the same size. All right. So now I've got all of these controls set up on my form. I'm going to copy in that class like you guys did. So how did you do that? What would be the best way? I'm going to go to Canvas and download it. Let me go find that file. Close out of that. I'll go grab it. Okay, in Canvas, it's just showing it to me in a raw format, just the code. That works. I'll Control A and Control C. And I'm going to take a look at it. This class is named Audio CD. There's an uppercase C and a lowercase d. So I want to make sure I name my new class file exactly the same. So I'm ready to add my new class file to my project. Add a class, audio CD, and then I should be able to select everything in here and paste. Now the class that I posted, if you notice, has a lot of comments and things like that. Like I said, it's pretty much fully developed. We've used some different versions as we've gone. We need to double check, though, our namespace. So my namespace is this leftover namespace from the project I copied this from. That's not going to work very well. So there's a few ways I could go about finding my current namespace. I could expand my Form 1 and look at the Form 1 designer code. Oh, there's the namespace. This is mine. Yours is probably different. So I'm going to copy that.
How do you expand the Form 1 code?
Over here in Solution Explorer, find your form and use that triangle. And then underneath that, you'll see the .cs file. That's called the code behind file because you have to actually expand that to go find that .cs file code. And this is the code that you're going to look at if you ever want to know what Windows is doing behind the scenes. And this is the code that you're taken to if we have a problem with that missing control from our form. Okay, so remember though, in here they've used some of those regions, so some of the code is collapsed. You might have to expand it. Yes, sir?
How did you get there?
Go on Solution Explorer and expand your form. And right under your form, you should see the form1.designer.cs file. And we just need to grab that namespace from that. So we could get our namespace from any .cs file in our project. I just know that's the only one that's really been created so far. So now I'm going to paste that, make sure I have the same namespace. There's a really easy way for us to make sure we've got that correct. And I can tell I don't, so I'm going to leave mine the way it is so you can see the problem. I'm going to try to run my application.
My namespace is different than yours. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. It doesn't care. So right now everything's good. I'm going to leave my namespace messed up in my audio CD file so you can see what happens as we go. Keep yours good. So right now it shouldn't be causing you any trouble. Yes, sir?
When I copied the namespace into the audio CD class file, it says whenever I say audio CD in this file that it's incorrect. It says type audio CD already defines a member called .ctor with the same parameter types.
Can you just control Z then? Okay. Undo that change and we'll look at it when we try to get them to link together.
Got it.
To get rid of it. All right, so let's look at our form. When somebody clicks OK, what we would like to do, I think, is create an instance of our audio CD. And then we want to add all of these text box items into that instance. And then let's do a message box and just display it. Because right now, until we have that list over here to the side where we can display the ones that are entered, we'll just use a message box in the meantime while we're developing. So let's double click our OK button to create our code. So when we're working with the Windows form, that very first PowerPoint talking about it mentioned how we're always running in this form loop. We're always just sitting there waiting for an event to occur. So whenever we're coding for our form, sometimes you can feel like you're trapped in that loop. Like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? So that's a really normal thing. We're going to start with this one at our OK button. But as we develop, we may have to move some code around and rearrange the way we have things as we explore different capabilities that we have. Okay, so in our OK button, we want to create an instance of our audio CD. So I should be able to specify that I want to use my audio CD. Right away, I can see that I'm having trouble. Now, again, this is because my namespace doesn't match. So I'm going to copy my namespace, go to my audio CD class, and paste it. Make sure they're exactly the same. Now, once my namespaces are the same, I should be able to specify in my form code that I want to create that instance of an audio CD. Oh, look, it does know what an audio CD is now because they're in the same namespace so they can see each other. Is everybody's okay? Did it turn that aqua blue color? Good? Yeah, the red squiggly's okay. As long as it turned the aqua blue, that means it recognizes that as a valid class within your project. So we're good. Okay, so let's call this CD our CD instance. And it's going to be a new audio CD. And if we looked at our audio CD class, we would see that we had created that class with a default no arg constructor. So that's what this instance is going to use. It's going to create that CD, but it's going to be empty. So let's add content to that CD. First of all, for this CD instance, we want to set the ID field. Oops, do we not have any properties in our CD class? Let's double check. I want to go to my audio CD class because it's not showing any. Did I give you a bad one? Here we have our private class fields and our constructors. Oh, and our toString. We have no properties. Let's go put those in. Remember how we can do that really quickly. Go to the top of the class where your class data fields are. Select them. Click the paintbrush. And we want to encapsulate fields, but still use field. And that should generate those getters and setters for us. Got it? Everybody got it okay? Do what? Okay, because you're using your installation. So right click on that list. And one of the very first things should say, I can't remember the term. What have you got? What? Yes, that one. And under quick actions and refactoring, it should look very much the same, where it says generate properties but still use fields. Do you see it?
Encapsulate fields but still use fields.
Yes. Perfect. So it should do the same thing. I don't know if it generates them using the lambda expressions.
I don't have the
You should have the paintbrush using the lab computer. So you won't have either of them. Okay, so I always like to give you classes that need a little bit of maintenance, just like in the real world. Okay, so now we have some properties we can access for this CD instance. That's going to make our lives a lot easier so that we can actually work with this. So back to my code. I'm in the OK button of our form. And I've got CD instance, and when I type the period, now I see the properties that I wanted. I want to set the ID property equal to our text box ID, whatever the user typed into the text property. Then I want to just keep going, and all of our CD instance properties we're going to set to the associated text box. txt name dot text. Oops. Now it's mad at me about the cost. I'm going to keep going and we'll come back and fix that.
Expensive.
Too expensive, or numeric or something. It'll be the same way about our number of tracks. We're going to have to do something to check our data. Lastly, our quantity. So we have 3 data items on our form that are numeric, that we want to make sure we have valid data entered in them, right? But we also have to convert those before we can use them in our CD instance. So our cost needs to be converted to decimal. Convert to decimal. Yes, sir.
It thinks everything I'm referencing from the audio speed class is wrong, probably because of that namespace issue.
Oh, okay. So you still have it. Okay, he's gonna do some copying and pasting. What do we need to do to convert these other ones? What'd you guys decide?
We have to convert that to measure scale.
In 32?
The other one's on decimals.
So let's get on the old Google thing there. And I want you guys to find some information about validating these data fields. Let me fix this. So I have a Windows form, and I want to make sure that my text box input is numeric. So let's see what kind of things you can find on Google, and then let's compare notes to see what we would like to try based on all of the different things that you find. Yes? Don't worry, everybody's going to be looking. I don't see Google stuff going on. What are we searching for? Finding non-numeric data in the text field? Yes, sir?
I copied my design photo. I did this.
I would like to hear from you all what we should do.
What was the Google question?
What to do about form fields that should only contain numeric data? What should we do? I bet we have a lot of options.
I'm seeing a lot of people using parse, in-dot parse, and then they're using some sort of like trim method.
Oh yeah? We'll look at it.
I don't know.
No, there's so many different options. That's what I want to see. So many different ways.
We could use is chart.
Is char. This key press one, right, on Stack Overflow. You've seen it. Let's bring some up. Okay, first, I want to look at the one Braden's looking at. Braden, can you take over this thing, please? Let me release it. Okay, show us what you found, Saul. Please. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at this one. What's the event that this is going to be associated with?
I was looking at this one here, actually. This
Oh,
one looks
okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's checking each character, it looks like. So it's running through a for loop, and it looks like it's checking for each character that's getting passed through. Maybe. I'm not sure what this trim method is here.
It still isn't working.
But, so it's using the
Rid of any spaces.
if the text box gets changed.
Bless you.
Setting the text box text key string, running it through a for loop. Saying it.
Guys behind us, do you have something that you want to tell us about? Did you find something good you want to share your screen? Because right now Braden is, and so I would like it if you would listen to him. And please look at what he's showing us. Thank you so much. Continue, sir.
So did you want to use this one or this one?
What do you guys think? In this one, what's the event procedure here for this? What event is occurring that's going to make this execute?
If the text is changed.
So do you guys like this one? Are you looking at what's going on here? What's that next one do?
This is parsing it, making sure that it's integer, but again, it's using this trim method that most of the examples that I've been seeing are using.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what that does.
So the trim should just eliminate any extra spaces at the end. And you know how annoying that is if you accidentally type a space in your username and it doesn't get you logged on or something. So that's what they're doing there, is trying to make sure they don't have anything like that left over. So those ones look good. Hang on to those. Does anybody have any others that they found? Yeah, stop sharing. What do we got? I know there's some other ones out there. How about, Noah, did you find any?
Something.
You got one? You want to show us?
Yeah, just a moment.
So I like those. Okay, where are we at?
I have found one like this.
Uh-huh. In one line, they're saying, what's our event there? Key press. So that's a little different than the event that Braden was looking at, right? That's text changed. So they're both effective, but we have those different options. And then what's it doing in there?
Checking to see if it's a digit, like a number or not.
Mm-hmm. So if it is, it's using this system Boolean handled. So the handled event, a Boolean, is going to be set based on this comparison here. If the character is a digit and the character is a control, one or the other, then the handled Boolean will be set to true, meaning, okay, it's all right, continue on. So that's an option. That's an interesting one. Anybody else find any? I'll show you the one that I've got that's very similar to Edward's. This is on Stack Overflow. I'll have to take over. And this one is very similar. It runs on the key press event, and it just has that spread out a little bit more. And maybe we might have to look at this as far as taking care of a decimal place if we wanted a decimal place in our cost. So let's try some. Let's go to the one that Braden had first. Braden, I'm going to put you back in charge. And let's try that one. If you get some code that you like for numeric validation like this, you should be okay. Then you can just use it over and over, kind of like that try parse statement that you guys got so used to before. And we could definitely use that one. Just nice to have options, you know, available. Okay, I want to try, let's try this first one. Now, it's a text changed event. So bring up your form. And on your form, we want to be looking at the actual form design. And we want to double click on, I guess, the number of tracks text box, because that's our first numeric item. Now, when you double click on that, notice the event procedure that it creates for you is the text changed. Yes, sir?
When I try to go to my form, it gives me an error saying the designer cannot process unknown name.
Yeah, because it's all messed up. So let's just put this code in somewhere. Some comment for us. You guys go ahead and try it.
Control. Then scroll. Yeah. Is that good? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Where did you copy that one? I'll put the link in the message.
Okay, Braden, I don't have that in, so you might have to help me, but I'm going to zip up this project the way I have it, get it sent to these guys, if I can, maybe.
How do I send a text?
How do you what?
I like send a message within Zoom to not share it.
Go to the chat.
Let's see. When I have my, I don't have a full screen. I can read your chat. But I'm not participating.
It should be on this bar thing. Do you see that bar?
I have that at the top, but mine doesn't have a little chat.
Is it? I think that I took over again. No, you're just seeing mine because I'm on the projector. Never mind. Ah. So you don't have the little bar thing? Hang on, let me zip up this project for these guys.
Do you have the bar at the bottom?
I have it at the top. But
That
there's
should
chat.
work.
There's no chat. It's all work there.
There should be one at the bottom with the invite participants shared chat before.
I found it.
Did you find it? Oh, you're so good.
There's under like 2 tabs.
It's hiding from you, just being a jerk. Everything's not cooperating today. It's like some days you just feel like we should have just. okay, I'm going to post this to the announcements. My project the way it is right now, so that anybody who's got a project that's having trouble can grab it. Let me put this out here. Okay, it's posted. Grab that one and unzip it before you open it. When it asks, if it asks you any questions about TFS, just say no, 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 all that stuff. Ooh, look at that. Okay, so show us that awesome code. At least me, because I was not getting to see it. Oh, that looks good. What do you guys think about it? Is it pretty understandable?
Wait, so you want us to not put it in TFS?
Not use mine. So yes, do put it in TFS for yours, but it could be confused when you first open it. So with this code, can we use a decimal place? Let's try our cost that we're going to convert to more of a currency type option and see if this code will handle that decimal for us. Now Braden's going to change it to use that text field for our cost. Is it working?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, when I try to enter a period, it says enter decimal or decimal.
Okay, so it doesn't like the decimal, so let's take a look at that code. Could we add something there in that if statement? Should we say, could we say, or,
So where do I put this code?
double click on, this code is on the TXT cost, the one that he's working on right now. So could we say T string index I equal the period? Doesn't like that. Okay, it's a char, so let's try single quotes instead of double quotes around that period, since we're working with a char data type. Okay, so we're taking that code that we found and we're going to modify it a little bit and see if it will suit our purposes. Still mad at us? Look at that if statement. What is that exclamation point nodding? Should we put everything with except that exclamation point within parentheses? Yeah, try it. We're doing ors with nots, which is not good. Now we can't even use numbers. So get rid of the exclamation point there in that second half of your if statement, and let's put the entire if statement within parentheses except for the exclamation point, so that our not applies to all of it. So that's okay. So ugly, ors with knots. But we have to really isolate that not so that we can be exactly specific about what we're applying that to. So that works. Let's try one of these other options for our quantity field. I'd like to try that one that Edward found. Can we switch who's sharing? And Edward, if you could share with us and show us that really short one. Let's see what it does. Yeah. So this one is a key press event. So remember, if we just double click on our data field, we're going to get the text changed. That's not the event that we want. So let's copy and paste that code. We'll let him do it. Actually, I changed my mind. Let's approach this a little differently. Go to your form designer. And in your form designer, let's click on the number in inventory because we haven't validated that text box yet.
Okay.
Just once. I didn't want to click on it twice. I just wanted to click on it once.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Just to select it. Now, when we're selecting it, when it's selected, let's look at the events over here for it. And we want to find, what was it? Key
press.
Key press. So scroll up.
There it is.
Click in key press over here and double click. And that'll create that key press event for you. And then he's just going to copy that one line in there for us. All right. Can you make that thing big? Your screen. That's all right. Now, we want to get rid of the, yeah.
That.
Mm-hmm. And the extra closing curly brace. And now let's see how that's, expose that for everybody so that they can see that code. And let's let everybody get that entered in for theirs. I'm going to put it in mine. I didn't get the other, but I will. How's that looking when you try it?
Oh, right, it's number. Only lets me press numbers.
What about the dot?
Dot.
Can you do a decimal place? We don't need to in this, but we want to make sure.
Oh, can't do decimal place.
Okay, so let's look at your code. How can we fix it? Got to be able to fix it if you're going to grab that code off the internet. Can't just use it.
Is the I don't know.
So right now it's saying we're going to do a not, and we're checking to see if the character is a digit, and if it's a E.key character.
What's that mean?
I don't know. Better Google that. So let's check. What does that mean? You might see it there on your problem description on the website where you were looking at that. If they tell us. Is it only works for integers? So it looks to me like we could just add another one. So let's go back to that code. And in the if statement, right there before the semicolon. We want to add and, so 2 ampersands after a space. Space not, so the exclamation point. Char dot, let's see if we have anything for that. We could say is punctuation. Keep going and see if there's any other options that would work for us.
Its symbol is operator.
You could do is letter and then do the single quotes with the.
Could we do that with is punctuation? Let's do is punctuation.
Okay.
And then within the parentheses, we want to put the single quote dot single quote. Will that work, you guys? That sounds good, Brendan. Let's see if that does it.
Yeah.
Wait, now it lets me enter letters though.
Also true.
Also true, so it's letting you enter anything? Well, that's no good. So I'm just going to leave that with you. Mean of me, huh? But so you have some code that's working and some code that works as long as we don't need decimal places, which in our quantity we don't. So let's take that last little part out, that extra and statement, because we were trying to make that one go a little further than what it really needs. With our quantity, we're okay with that. So that should work. So we should have effective error handling for all of those different fields. So now that means if we look at our OK button code, where we just do a convert, that should be all right, because we should never encounter a situation where we have invalid data in those text boxes, right? Because we've got everything set now to take care of that for us. Okay, so I'm going to take back over, I guess. And I want to just update that OK button code so that at the very end, after I've gotten all of my data fields inserted into our CD instance class, let's use our CD instance class's toString method to print out that information. So I'm going to kill myself here. Let's do a message box.show. And we want to print out everything about our CD instance, and we will use its toString method to do that. So now we've got everything pretty organized. We've said we're going to create an instance of our CD. We're going to update all of this stuff for the CD, and then we're going to display that information. Let's run it and see if we can get it to work. Oh, my tab sequence is all messed up. I've got to fix that. Yeah, if I press tab, my cursor kind of jumps around a little bit. So we want to check that as we're working and make sure that we don't have something out of whack for our users. Now, as I continue to press tab, I get to the OK button, and I should be able to press enter and see my information.
Yep.
Now, my toString isn't formatting super pretty for my message box, but that's all right. We're going to try to move all of that into a list box here. So a couple of things. I want to stop running. I'm going to look at my form design and check my tab sequence, because like I said, I've got something messed up. So I'm going to start with my ID. My ID should be tab index 0, and it is not. Now, when we're working with properties, as we change controls, we'll stick with the same property. So it makes it really easy to change things. So my tab index for this one should be 1. And then, are you sorted in alphabetical order?
Yeah.
So it should be down in your T's. And I've got some really high ones.
I have tab index change.
Oh, go back from your events and look at your properties. Up at the top of that little window, remember, click on the one that has the wrench. See it? Good job. Okay, so I've got my tab indexes, I think, pretty well lined out, where I should be able to press the tab key and go through my form nicely. I'd kind of like it to where if they pressed enter, it executed my OK button. We can do that really easily. It's a property on the form. So click on your form so that you're looking at your form's properties. And I have everything sorted, remember, alphabetically. So up at the top, you'll find the accept button. And I want to use that property and say my OK button should be my accept button for this form. And that means it should be associated with the enter key. Find it? Okay. Look at your, make sure you're looking at your form and the properties for your form.
Oh.
That's one bummer about that accept button is you can't set it up on the form until you already have the button created. We want to use,
I was on the wrong thing for properties.
we want to use the cancel button also for if somebody presses escape. So we'll set that one up when we create a reset button. So let's go ahead and create a reset button. I want to use a button control. I'll put it down here and kind of make it the same size. And I want to name this BTN reset. And I'll make it say reset. I'll fix my back color.
Accidentally closed the oh wait, there it is.
Did you find it?
Yeah, the property.
Good job. So what I want to do in my reset button is I want to make sure that all of these things are cleared out. So let's double click the reset button and put some code in that. So we want to start out with whatever text box you like. And remember, we can set these text boxes equal to 2 double quotes, or we can use the dot clear method. Either one is fine. I'm going to put mine kind of in the same name, or same order, sorry. Saying what I'm typing. Bless you. Now you'll notice that we don't normally set up default values in our text boxes when we're working with Windows Forms. Sometimes we might, but we just created those event procedures that handled making sure that people were typing only valid data. If you stuck a 0 into this text box and then the user started typing and they left that 0 could end up actually becoming part of the number. And so it's just been kind of commonly accepted to not load a placeholder like that. But you might get to a point where you need to. Either way is fine, but remember that numbers are always right aligned, always right aligned. Never leave a number left aligned like the default. So as you know, people that are going to be working with accountants, you have to make sure that you use that proper alignment in your fields. So I've got now where all my text fields are being cleared out. I want to make sure the cursor is sitting at the ID text box. So I'm going to use the focus method. The focus method sets the focus of the application. So you know what the focus is. It's where things are, where your cursor is, where you're ready to type, the control that is current on our form. So we want to set that focus to our ID field. So let's look at our form. Everything should work on our reset. I want to change a couple of things though before we do that. Our number of tracks, number in inventory or quantity, and cost are all numbers. So I'm going to select all three of those. And I'm going to change my text align to right. Mine is already set that way, so make sure yours is set that. It's such a habit to me that I already have it that way, even on my test form, because we want those numbers to align to that side. All right, let's run it.
It works.
You should be able to put some stuff in. And see how your cursor jumps over to that side, which is kind of what we're used to for numbers. And I can just press enter then to finish it up. Now our reset button, if I click it, should clear everything out. And my cursor should be sitting there in the ID field. Does everything look good?
Yep.
Working? Okay, great. Let's stop run there. And let's make one more change. And let's make our reset button be the cancel button on the form. So click on your form. So you're looking at your form properties. Locate the cancel button property and change it to use your reset button. Now if we're running and we start typing some things and we realize we've got it messed up and we press escape, it resets everything back to the default. Uses our reset button code. Coolness. Now, I'd like to make one more change before we're done for today, but it's a doozy. So if you look at our OK button code, right now, we're creating this CD instance, our audio CD instance, here when somebody clicks our OK button. That's probably not going to work for us if we want to use this form for lots of different things. And I would like to be able to use this form to add new media. I'd like to be able to use it to update ones that we already have, and just to view those ones that we already have. So I'm thinking that it would be better if our CD instance was a class level variable and it was available to all of the different event procedures or methods that we might create within our code. So instead of keeping it trapped down here in our OK button, maybe we should move this declaration. So I'm going to copy my audio CD instance part. Copy. And I want to paste it up here as a class level field. Our instance field. So just like a class that we're creating ourselves, we can create these class level variables within our form class. Now it's mad at me because I need to remove that audio CD data type from my CD instance object because I now have it already declared. So not a big change to us just looking at it, right? We just made our CD instance something that we can use all throughout our application, but it really didn't change any of the code that we have too much. Trouble, sir?
Yeah. Mine says cipher namespace name probate could not be found.
It sounds like private is spelt wrong.
Oh,
Did it stick it in there for you and spell it wrong?
yeah, there we go.
Stuck it in there for me, so I don't know if it spelled it right or wrong. Okay, so my CD looks good. What I'd like to do is think about a form load. So in a form load, I could actually like display a CD if one was given to me. So if I already had this audio media, I could go ahead and display it in the fields that we have. So let's emulate that. Go back to your form, and we want to create a form load event procedure. So let's double click on a blank spot of our form. Remember, our form load runs before the form displays. So this is a life cycle event. It's not, let me type this so I can talk. It's not like an event, like a click event. This is something that only happens once when our form is loaded. We can do like a reload command and like basically trick the operating system into shutting down our form and reloading it. So if we had some sort of major changes or something, we could do that, but that's kind of a clumsy way to take care of it. But that is something that we could do. So in effect, this is only going to run once for our application. So let's say we already had a CD instance. Let's create a new one. Double click on a blank spot in your form, anywhere, any blank thing. So you're looking at your form and just double click.
Wherever there's nothing.
Wherever you want. He's like, I can't believe it. All right, so I want to take our CD instance and make it be a blank CD in our form load. We're going to change this in a little bit, but for right now, let's create a blank media to display. And remember, in our class, we load up some names like default name, default things like that. So we'll be able to see that. So now we want to connect this media to our text form. So I want to set all my text boxes equal to the CD instance fields or properties. So whenever we clicked OK and we wanted to take the data from our text box, we were using it after the equal sign. When we want to update the data in our text box, we're going to put our text box before the equal sign, right? Just like if we wanted to set any other variable.
Can we do that to all of them?
All of them, yep. So our ID, our artist. So it seems like we have some redundant code, and you're right. We're going to try to, as we develop this, maybe make some methods to do these things for us that it looks like we're going to have to do often. And then my cost. So again, we have a few that we're going to have to convert. But this time, we only need to convert them to strings. So we can do that really easily. I'll just put the .2 string on the end of each of those. And then we should be ready to display. Bless you. Okay, so if you run this, you should see the data from our default CD instance show up in your form when it first loads. We could click the reset button and create a new one. And get our message box that we created it. So we're in really good shape now. We are ready next time to create our list. And now we've got everything all set in our detail form here to display information about CD media that we create, and we'll be able to add it to our list. So is yours working? Does it make sense? Let's add some comments before we close it. So I'm going to go up to the very top of my form code. We created our global CD instance so we could keep track of that throughout our application. If somebody clicks the OK button, we're creating a new instance of our audio CD. And then we're using the text field data to load our audio CD media data. So next time we'll get rid of this message box, and instead of that we'll just be adding this to our list box there. Now in your text changed events, make sure to document some information for yourself about how that code is working and how it's making sure that only numeric data is entered. So if you have an assignment where you have to make sure that only valid data is entered from here on out, you have code. All you have to do is copy and paste it into your form, right? Because you've got all that. So you don't have to worry about reinventing that wheel. We also have some code here that does a pretty good button reset. We don't have any radio buttons or anything like that in our form, so you should have some code like that in the earlier examples that we created. And then in our form load, we documented the fact that this runs before the form displays. We're creating our blank media and then moving the information from that blank CD media out to our text boxes.
This is weird.
What's that?
When I first open it, it fills all the forms, like ID is FF, artist is FF, and that's the placeholder, right?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Right, I forgot about that.
Yep, so that's what's coming from your form load, where it's creating that blank one. So looks great. I think everybody's in pretty good shape. On your assignments, keep working on that pizza app. We don't have a lot of time, but 20 minutes of on your own lab time for you to work on that stuff. Let me know if you have any questions or something that's not working. Do check this one into TFS so that you'll have it. Thank you.